Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the ChampCar iRacing series. After a couple of rounds in a little fling with the Mazda MX-5, our rotating cast of cars continues. We're back with the street stock. Less grip, less sophistication, but more cylinders, more horsepower. This is definitely going to be an interesting one here for round 11 of the championship at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We don't have exactly the road course layout that ChampCar will be using this weekend on the iRacing simulator. But we've got pretty close, and it shares a lot of the challenges, a lot of the great views of this very, very well-known and well-loved circuit. I'm David Haynes. I'm joined by Devin Peters. And Devin, we're in qualifying right now, just a couple minutes left of that. Tell me your thoughts about the street stock and about Indianapolis. I know you've raced here as well.
Yeah, there's really nothing that compares to walking into this place at 5 a.m. and seeing the sun peeking up over those grandstands. And yeah, I'm as excited for this race as I am for the big one this weekend with ChampCar. So it ought to be a great time. These street stocks are going to be a real interesting showcase around here today as well. Lots of power, low grip, and a really high skill ceiling will really let us see who the best drivers are today.
Yep, certainly. These cars, a sort of entry-level, short-track, stock car, you can set them up for a road course like this. That's what we've done. So they have a V8 powering them, but they are not on particularly great tires. They're an older style, older low-technology bias ply tires. So that means high speeds down the pit straight here, but then very long braking zones. Very difficult to coax this car into braking or turning, and also quite high tire wear as well. So one pit stop in the race, you assume almost everyone will be changing those tires because you wear them down pretty quickly. A new set of boots underneath you will definitely give you quite a bit more performance, at least for a handful of laps. So proceedings right now, it's qualifying. There's 2 minutes left before we get to our 1 hour race for round 11 of this championship. Talk about the championship. Well, I do believe Alex Albert is still in the best seat points-wise to win that free entry worth over $1,500 into a race of his choosing next season. So our winner, our points champion, is going to be very handsomely rewarded. Also, of anyone who completes, I believe it's 12 of the 16 rounds, we're raffling another free entry amongst those drivers who participated in this year's season. So even if you're not right at the pointy end of the grid, Devin, I think everyone has a reason to show up for these sim races and give their best effort.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Haynes. And just looking in on the points a little further, Alex Albert is leading with 440 points. We got Justin Hall in second place, 1 win and 325 points. Max Lupfa's in third with 272 points. And Alex Crawford's in fourth with 271. So pretty tight among all the other contenders. And Alex Albert's coming off of a 13th place finish at the last race. So he's hoping that this one will be better and not a drop week for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, Max Lupfa, one of those drivers we haven't seen at every round of the championship so far, but he's got at least 1 win to his name. Every time he has showed up, he's been right at the tippy top of the field. So we'll see what he can do in these cars today. Qualifying is nearly done. I think the track temperature has slowly risen over qualifying, and that's hurting the driver's chances of improving right at the end here. But Jeff Tyler is with the fastest qualifying time, and that is handsomely more than half a second ahead of Alex Albert. And then Simon Foweather has a good time to be third on the grid as it stands right now. John Hurley in a Danger Racing paint today. as he often is, so that'll be familiar to any of the Champ Car fans. And Max Lupfer 5th on the grid as it stands right now. Checkered flag waved at that start-finish line, at that famous yard of bricks. iRacing have done some little updates, and now the flagman actually faces the correct way for the road course here as well. So that's delightful. And those bricks are laser scanned. You feel them as you drive over them here.
Mm-hmm.
So checkered flag out. Everyone on a lap's going to be able to finish it, Devon.
Yeah, and watching this qualifying session, Jeff Tyler got a heck of a draft on that fast lap, but he absolutely had to put together all of it in one. But he crossed the line almost 3.5 miles an hour faster than the guy in second place, Alex Albert. So definitely helped to have the draft around the last corner in the back straight. Layout that's a tiny bit different than the ChampCar series here. We run in the iRacing series the full turn 1 in reverse. Of course, in the ChampCar series, you'd be churning off of turn 1 and down into the infield to do a quick right-left chicane.
Yeah, it does mean you're carrying more speed across the start-finish line, harder braking into the road course turn 1. It's the most accurate layout we've got. It's not perfectly accurate, but it actually suits these cars pretty well. Bit of a heavy bathtub on wheels, and you kind of got to pilot it like a container ship, making your moves and your inputs, well in advance of the corners. Interesting line here, practicing the pit entry from Jeff Tyler, is it? Certainly everyone in the race is going to have to make a pit stop, so practicing that pit entry could be quite important. Qualifying is nearly done, and when qualifying's done, we'll bring you that grid before we go racing. But yeah, drivers practicing that pit in, quite a fast pit road speed limit here at Indy as well. It's not how Jeff Tyler's going to want to pit during the race. Creative, but that is qualifying done now. So your grid for round 11 of the ChampCar iRacing series. It's Jeff Tyler on pole with Alex Albert alongside him. Behind them, Simon Foweather and John Hurley. Max Lupfer in 5th, like we said. Jacob Hiller in 6th. And Justin Hall is back in 7th with Alex Coffard, but both of those guys have a habit of moving forward in the races. Nicholas Love of Love Racing in 9th. He's also got some teammates in the grid. Camilo Carrizosa is in 10th.
Yeah, and carrying on down the grid, we've got Matthew Thompson in 11th place, the first of our qualifiers in the 138th. Shane Cameron in 12th, William Corridor and Carlos Corridor in 13th and 14th. Chris Nicely in 15th place with Jay Sofianek lining up in 16th. Scott Grinnell in 17th with Aaron Thorpe in 18th. In 19th, we've got Andrew Kosick and David Palermo behind him. Javier Pinzon and Ernesto Carrizosa is in 22nd. Philip Hayden in 23rd, David Warden in 24th, and Rachel Kosick in 25th. No times entered for Mark Burt and Rob Craig, but that doesn't mean they can't get onto the grid. We'll see if they make an appearance in the race today. And I just got to say, I love what appears to be a Tiger King-inspired livery on the right-hand side of the grid there. Car 691, that's Chris Nicely. Good choice.
There we go. We'll see what Chris Nicely can do in this race. There is quite a few interesting paint schemes out there. All of the Team QJAS drivers have got their, some of them got their HJ paints. Jeff Tyler in the Wonder paint. Got an STP sort of throwback livery for Simon Foweather in 3rd place. All the Love Racing drivers have got their sort of coordinated but different flare color paint schemes out there. And and as you mentioned, Tiger King and then some other interesting liveries as well. So a full pace lap around here before we get going. Field's just gonna get going now behind our Porsche pace car, which is a significantly faster car than what our drivers are going to be racing. But it will lead the field for this full pace lap before peeling in and we get racing.
Yeah, and getting this turn one right is going to be really critical for these drivers. There's definitely a lot of runoff, but you lose a lot of time locking it up, and you're coming in so fast. I imagine it's going to be a hotbed of activity for us through this first 1-2 chicane.
Yep, heavy cars, quite little brakes, not a lot of grip either. So I think in qualifying, we saw quite a few people lock up the front tires going in there. You've got to kind of start braking from 400 feet before the corner or almost more sometimes. And throughout the race, that's going to, have to back up even further as they wear the tires down. The lap times can drop off 2-3 seconds a lap easily once the tires start wearing down for these cars. So that's one thing they also got to keep in mind. There's a few places around this circuit where the braking zones just get longer and longer as you get deeper into a stint.
Yeah, and a track with not a lot of elevation change, but these cars are challenging enough to drive that, you're right. They really ought to provide, some interest for these drivers. And in this car, I don't think it'd be remiss to say that a clean race is almost as important as a fast race. Don't want to end up facing backwards anywhere out on the track.
Yeah, and as you wear those rear tires down, which you absolutely will with the V8 motor, it does become harder to keep it pointing the correct direction on corner exit. In qualifying, when everyone was pushing hard as they could to get their best lap, did see quite a few drivers loop it around, quite a few drivers lock up, get deep into some of the corners. They'll be a little more reserved in the race here, but it just demonstrates the challenge that these street stocks can be. So the pace car peels in, the green flag gets waved, and we get racing for 60 minutes at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it is a good jump from your pole sitter, Jeff Tyler. Alex Albert, Simon Foweather are going to come along with him. In towards turn one. Cold tires at the start here. Long braking zone, but everyone so far, I think, behaved themselves, gotten through the turn 1-2 chicane. They come around turn 3 towards turn 4, another longer, slower corner in the first section here. So far, everyone's been quite sensible, Devon. You like to see it.
Yeah, I can vouch for how challenging corner number 4 is there. I put it in the gravel my first lap out when I was here.
I absolutely didn't pass anyone under yellow there on accident on one lap as well. So it's a challenging corner as well. You can kind of outbrake someone there. But,
we have had a little.
We're going to see through the race.
We have had a little drama for Scott Grinnell. Started the race in 16th, car number 25. He's spun it as he's entering the infield there in turn number 7. But it looks like he's managed to gather it back up without touching the wall. Just cost him a few spots.
Maybe overheated his tires early. There's definitely something to be said for just managing the tires, managing the fuel burn at this point in the race, knowing how much fuel you're going to have to take at the pit stop and how long it takes to change tires. But right up the front here, we're seeing the high-speed nature of this track, the slipstream, the tow coming in. Alex Albert right at the bumper of Jeff Tyler. He doesn't want to get to the lead. He just gives him a tap, says, "I'm here," and then rolls out of the throttle, content to let Jeff Tyler lead. Behind that, some moves going on. Lutfer and Hiller, a man who's still potentially in for the championship here. Max Lutfer in the 688 is trying to work his way forward, but Jacob Hiller is not going to let him. So 3-car scrap and maybe some more going on here behind Jacob Hiller. Quite a few drivers anxious to get by. Lutfer's still in the championship fight if he can get some more wins, but he is trying to get through the field. It's not happening just yet.
Yeah, and I might have given the fans the wrong impression. of course, this is a series with, I believe, 4 drop weeks. So Max, Lupfa, and Justin Hall, they sound like they're a long way behind, but once drop weeks are accounted for, they're not necessarily all that far behind. So some strong performances in the second half of the season here could put them right back up into contention with Alex.
Yeah, exactly. All about your 12 best results. And if you've already got some wins on the board, then you just got to add a couple more to that. And suddenly you do have a good portfolio of 12 good results for your championship. Top 2 are starting to get away here. They are 2 seconds clear of Simon Foweather, who then has a second ahead of Jacob Hiller, where all of the action in the midfield seems to be. What's going to happen at the front? At the moment, I think Alex Albert's thinking about his championship, and he's content to let Jeff Tyler tow him around, save him some fuel, because kind of like in ChampCar, in the real world, these cars, when they get to pit lane, they do not get fueled quickly. If you've got to add a couple extra gallons, then that is going to cost you a whole heap of time on pit road. So Tyler and Albert both got really hot into turn 1 and might have locked up their tires a little bit. Track temperature around 85, 86 Fahrenheit at the moment, so not super hot, but it's not a cold track.
Yeah, and you can really tell that these guys are working together, because their last lap, they were almost 7/10, 8/10 faster than the guys in third place. So I wouldn't be surprised if Alex Albert's got in his head, hey, let's push early and get a gap back to those guys, and then once we've got a little bit of comfort room, he can save that fuel the way he always seems to, and put himself in a good position for after the stop.
Yeah, we know Tyler was massively quick in qualifying, and it's no mistake so far from Albert has let him, draft up, stick with him, and then those two are sort of going together as a unit. Behind that, Foweather, I think, has started to drop just a little bit of time to Hiller, who is kind of making it 5 drivers from third backwards, trying to be the driver to stand on the podium, maybe.
Yeah, and you can kind of see the tires already starting to drop off already. Just on the third lap, they're already starting to lose some time relative to those bests, or at least get a little bit loose.
Well,
of course, Alex Albert, yeah, of course he goes and sets the best lap of the race. But I was looking at the deltas of the guys further down the field. Oh, and actually, we've just had Jacob Hiller tag the outside wall on the way into one, bent his left rear fender maybe a little bit, but still pointed the right way.
I mean, I think what we're going to see is it takes 2 or maybe 2 laps to warm up the tires. Then they'll set their best lap, and then it'll drop off from there. So I think the next move that's really being shaped up is Max Lupfer on Jacob Hiller. You mentioned maybe you can put some dents on the body panels of these cars and it not really affect the performance, but it can dent your confidence. Someone's around in the background there. Alex Coffard losing a handful of spots. He's facing the wrong way now. Just too ambitious, getting the power down after that infield hairpin and onto the sort of, is that the Ullman Straight? Ullman Straight? It's got a name. But that is the mistake there for Coffard.
Yeah, really easy to get these cars pendulum going, and that's what it looked like there. Just came around on him.
I say low technology tires, once you slide them too far and they start looping around, you're not really going to be able to catch it, because the tires, once they're past their prime, just feel like giant marshmallows. So I'm again watching Lupfer trying to size up Simon Foweather here. Great position to move himself up another spot, maybe.
That's Jacob Hiller.
So defensive line from Hiller, but Lupfer's going to break around the outside. Is he still going to make the corner? He's going to have a bit of a drift on the way through. But I think that's... Oh, he's struggling with those tires, but I think he's made it work.
Yeah,
back down great. The inside. Oh.
Wow.
Right, Jeff Tyler's no problem. Alex Albert's in the lead of the race.
Wow, that was some great driving between Lupfa and Hiller. No quarter given.
So through that turn 4, has Tyler just slowed up and let him have it, or missed a gear, or
yeah,
he's
like
racing now, but
It looked to me, yeah, it looks like he went first to fifth or second to fifth rather than second to third because he was trying to accelerate and he was bogged down like 3,000 RPM coming out of that corner.
It's a four-speed, manual transmission
Oh, maybe went.
in these cars, so it's yeah, it's possible
He's
that
grabbed the wrong
he
one.
might have been looking for second and grabbed fourth potentially in that kind of slower corner. That would definitely. I mean, the motor's pretty torquey, but if you wanted second and you ended up in fourth, of course that's going to dull the power, dull the torque, and yeah, not the easiest of transmissions sometimes to get it into the gear you want. But that is maybe a godsend for Alex Albert. 2.5 seconds in the lead now. He can try and build that advantage out if he needs.
Yeah, and if I had a dime for every time I shifted this gearbox in the wrong one, man, I'd be rich because it's super easy to do with this car.
Is going for another position here. Simon Foweather is starting to light up the rear tires, struggle with the traction out of the slow corners. Lutfer is right with him now. And they got Jeff Tyler just in front of them as well. So you mentioned Lutfer as maybe one of the drivers to look at to come forward through the field. He's definitely in position for it here, staying all the way to the left to then open up the corner onto this this back straight of the course as it was. Not particularly hard braking zone at the end of this straight, so I'm not sure we're going to see many moves happen there. But you want to be close because it seems like you do get an extra 3 or 4 miles an hour on the pit straight, on the home straight, if you're right up behind someone in the tow.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying about it not being a huge braking zone in your average champ car, but in these things, with the archaic suspension and running gear, you do have to get pretty far slowed down.
So here he is. He's trying to set this one up on the famous banking that we have to use here on iRacing. He carries a whole lot of speed. He doesn't get the same kind of defense that Jacob Hiller tried to give him. Foweather stays on the racing line. Lutfer is side by side down the inside. And how is he going to be on the brakes? Pretty good to the apex. He is in a little bit hot, but now we can park it. And Foweather's not going to get back past him. That's Lutfer from 5th on the grid, now up into 3rd position.
A little bit further down the field, we've just seen Chris Nicely in car 691 slide one up the inside of looks like Jay Sofianek. I'm just keeping an eye on that car because it's got the tiger stripes on it, but it was a nicely executed move into turn 1.
Let's get Chris Nicely on Dancing with the Stars. That'd be interesting. That'd make me tune in. How's Mr. Nicely's race going? Started 15th, now running in 2nd. John Hurley, we know he had some problems early potentially. He's carving through the field here as well, so now he's just going to go plain round the outside of Jay Sofianek. Hurley started 4th on the grid. He's back in 14th here. Bit between the teeth for the Danger Racing man.
Yeah, and that was that lap 1 spin where he just kind of got a little loose and couldn't contain it.
He was telling me before the race that this car is kind of difficult on the cold tires right at the start. Then by lap 2 or 3, it's in the sweet spot. And then from there on out, I think you just keep on wearing them down. Everyone is a little bit back from their best laps of the race, and your leader Alex Albert is a second off his fastest lap of the race. So I think we're just getting into that point here where they are wearing down the tires. Justin Hall also making some moves. He's gotten past Hiller, so the Love Racing drivers united here of Hiller and Love on track together. You can see them sporting some ChampCar decals, and they almost get into each other. Love almost at the rear quarter panel of Hiller, trying to move him out of the way as Hiller goes backwards a little bit because Lutfer and Hall have gotten through in the last couple of laps. Now here we go, side by side in the infield, heading towards the S's section. Hiller is going to defend the inside. So his team owner of Nicholas Love is going to just try to set up the better exit. Oh, and 2 tires in the grass is not going to help you drive there, and Love swoops around the outside into 5th place. So 4 positions gained for the number 10.
Yeah, and on the circuit currently on the right-hand side there, they've got a giant sausage curb on the inside that would really mess you up if you cut it as much as these guys are. But without that sausage curb there, getting to the left-hand side for that run is so critical. And Hurley, I wouldn't be surprised to see him pull a full second by the time they get down to turn 1.
Hiller's under pressure again, this time from Simon Foweather. Foweather in the tow. What is he thinking for turn 1? He's thinking to dive down the inside super late on the brakes, nearly takes someone out and has to abort that one. That was ambitious, far too ambitious. He ends up losing out a couple of seconds in that one.
That must be the second time in a row, because he was right up in the top 3 there, and now he's dropped all the way back to 7th in the span of about a lap and a half. So some struggles there for Foweather.
Temptation's always there to overdrive these cars, to really slam on the brakes, to try and, open up the throttle too early. What really rewards your lap times and saving the tires is just rolling the momentum of the car, keeping the inputs very smooth. It doesn't like you driving it aggressively, because the suspension is too soft, the car is too heavy, and the tires wear out too quickly. And I think, unfortunately, Foweather is learning that. Needs to take maybe a deep breath, because my experience of these cars, and I'm sure yours as well, is that you overdrive them and they do not respond to it well at all.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Haynes. These cars are almost like a teaching car in that way. Bad inputs are going to make you pay, and whether it's 3/10 in a corner or 10 seconds lost over the course of a stint because you killed the tires early on, that you definitely notice it.
Bit more excitement at the pointy end of the race, because Jeff Tyler is back within a second of Alex Albert. He was, I shouldn't try and do numbers in my head here, about 0.7 of a second faster last lap around. Tyler almost matched his best lap of the race, so he would have started picking up a little bit of that slipstream again. That would have helped him, but he's on some very good speed, trying to hunt down Alex Albert for the lead of the race. We're now more than 15 minutes in, and I think anyone would be able to pit now and get to the end, but they don't want to do it because the car is a bit quicker when it's lighter on fuel. And also, with that tyre change they're going to take with their pit stop, you'd really rather do that about halfway so that you get the best life and performance out of your 2 sets of tyres. So.
Yeah, and Jeff Tyler might not be a name that's familiar to everyone. He hasn't done a ton of ChampCar racing in the real world just yet, but he's a very experienced driver and real fast and well known to Alex Albert, because these two have battled across a lot of different series over the last half a decade nearly. So it does not surprise me to see Jeff Tyler finding that extra gear when he needs it and managing to pull his way back up towards Alex Albert.
Yeah, and finding an extra gear when he doesn't need it seems to be how he lost the lead. But he's refocused from that. He is definitely hitting all of the lines, keeping good speed and getting to the apexes in the first sector of the lap here. And I really like this first sector of the lap. The S's for first corner, and then into that slightly more than 90-degree turn 4, and then into this hairpin. You've really got to set up one corner into the next. It's not super duper technical. It makes up for the lack of elevation change around this circuit as well. Bit of a wiggle putting the power down for Alex Albert. So now the lead is half a second, and Tyler was only 0.2 of a second faster last time around, but lap after lap he's putting himself in position to be able to attack for the lead, and knowing that Tyler isn't really in this championship and Albert absolutely is, I wouldn't be surprised to see that if Jeff Tyler sprung a move, Alex Albert decided, okay, still early in the championship, still early in the race. You never know.
Yeah, and if Alex Albert's looking at his relative box, he's also seen Max Lupfa, a serious championship contender, matching him lap after lap. And if he spends too much time battling Jeff, he might end up giving up some of that 3-second gap that he's managed to build up back to Lupfa.
Looking at the speeds here, the maximum speeds, Tyler in the draft gets right to the back of Alex Albert, but pushes it in a little deep, locks up one of the tires. But Tyler definitely had 2 or 3 miles an hour more down the straight from being behind him. So I like this, that through most of the lap, you've really got to drive the car carefully. But down the pit straight, there's just enough of a draft, just enough of a toe, that you can really give them some fight into turn 1.
I think my favorite part is watching them back it into turn number 1, especially as these tires start to go down. These guys, it gets real sketchy, and moving that brake bias backwards gets you faster and faster, but it gets you looser and looser.
Yeah, they sort of pushing wide on the way in for Albert. He's going to keep it on the track there and just block the way for Jeff Tyler, who then also runs a little off the apex. But to your point there, yeah, you do wear down the rear tires on throttle application and through the corners, so that then when you get to those really long braking zones and you put on the brakes, the rear gets really wiggly in a straight line. You need a bit of elbow room to be able to get the car slowed. Otherwise, the rear tires want to move around a little bit. They're starting to catch the first hint of traffic here. That looks like it's the 27 of Rob Craig. But again, with how high the skill ceiling is on these cars and how long the braking zones are, I don't imagine it will be hard for them to try and drive around him. So it might just play in a little bit here for our leaders as Alex Albert tries to cut underneath. Jeff Tyler will do the same. And I think no harm done there whatsoever in the traffic.
Yeah, staying on the line. That was well done from Rob Craig.
Fastest driver last lap, though, with the mistakes we saw from Tyler and Albert, was Max Lupfa, so he's closing in on the lead as well. He has dove his way through the traffic as well, so that bodes well for Lupfa, who's now only about 2 seconds off Jeff Tyler.
And if I do recall...
There's a problem for Albert, or is he just letting him go? Jeff Tyler to the lead.
Not sure. Riding on, I'll go back and...
I think Alex Albert's gone too wide.
Yeah.
Coming on to the back straight here, might have had to give up a bit of time there. So just like in ChampCar, where they had those cones out there to tell you you have to get off the concrete and onto the bitumen, lest you maybe get penalized. A similar thing happens here on iRacing. You can't track all the way out at that point there, and having seen how far Albert went, maybe that was a problem.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that one, and it's hard to tell because the runoff is so forgiving on this track in some respects, but you have to use all of it if you want to be really, really fast. So it's hard to know exactly where that center line penalty is going to ding you.
Look at Max Lupfa looming larger with these guys now. He's overcooked turns 1 and 2 a little bit, but he was definitely starting to get close. There's problems for Tyler and Albert. He was within 2 seconds. Now it's closer to 2.3. I wonder if his time in traffic early in the race, he couldn't push as hard as he wanted to. Maybe through there he's just saved the tires a little bit. Who knows? But he's definitely getting more comfortable with the car, having some good laps, and when he has a good lap, he takes time out of the guys in front, making this maybe a 3-way fight, which I'd love to see.
We are seeing our first pit stop. Car number 77, Camilo Carriosa, has come in. I'm not sure if this is a scheduled stop for him. I don't see a ton of damage on the car. but I'd say a little bit earlier than we would have guessed. But it's possible that he's kind of cooked the tires and feels like now's the time for him to get some new ones.
Yeah, if you had a huge lockup or you went for a spin and just overheated and torched the tires, then pitting now might be your best way about it.
Back to the leaders, though. One thing that I will say about Lupa is that he's always been, in all the races we've seen him do, very, very aggressive through traffic. And so that has served him well at times, but it's also caused him some problems. So I know that I'm going to be keeping an eye on how he does as these leaders start to get into more and more traffic, especially if some of these mid-pack guys decide to also take that earlier pit stop.
Yeah, I think he'll make a big undercut on the pit stop by pitting a bit early, but then you really don't want to hit the cliff at the end and be exposed and just dropping backwards through the order if you pit too early. So I do wonder amongst the leading drivers who we'll see go really long and who is just going to aim for that 30 minutes to go halfway point in the race to make their stop.
I'm going to have to get the race director to jump back to car number 691, Chris Nicely, and maybe even see if he can get him going into turn one there, because he and car number 69, William Corridor, just put a smoke show on as both of them locked it up, diving down into turn number one there. That was some pretty exciting stuff. It looks like Nicely's managed to secure that position, which puts him up another spot, now up 4 spots since the start of the race. But yeah, and here you can see it. That was a great move on his part. He lines it up the inside. Both of them get in too deep. Nicely manages to gather it back in just a little bit more and then carry the run around the outside, and well executed there. Pressure on Corridor for a few laps now, and finally manages to make it stick.
And you can do that in these cars, put the pressure on someone, make it look like you're going to try and go down the inside so they have to brake deep. And if they brake just, 1 foot too deep into the corner, you're going to do that. You're going to lock up those tires. You're going to slide wide of the corner and lose a handful of time. So you can put the pressure on someone, goad them into going a little over the line, and then go and grab a position like that. On the other hand, if you are that driver, you've got to avoid, trying to drive looking in your mirrors. Make sure that you're doing the braking zone and braking point that works for you.
Yeah, and the braking point's moving every lap at this point. It's moving back 10, 15, 20 feet, depending on how much heat you put in the tires on the straight before.
Lead of the race, Alex Albert's back with Jeff Tyler. So these two have been right with each other for most of this race. Tyler had it early. Albert got to the lead for a handful of laps and then kind of had to cede it back to Tyler. Luke for 3.5 seconds back. Hasn't had the greatest couple of laps. His charge has slowed a little. He started just dropping back a couple tenths here and there, and maybe he just pushed those tires a little too hard. Easy to do.
Yep.
Problem for Hiller in the 14. He's going for pit in. So this is an early call from Jacob Hiller in one of the Love Racing cars. I think this is strategic.
I think so too, and I think there's some merit to the undercut here, because now our leaders are starting to run. Last time by for Jeff, that was 37.4, and he was qualifying in the mid 36s. So it's about time where a new set of tires could gain you a second a lap and maybe get him a few positions that he felt like he was missing out on.
The car gets jacked up on the left-hand side first, so that lets you know that those tires are being changed. Gets dropped down and then get raised up on the right-hand side. Remarks I made earlier in the race is this car gets fueled very slowly. It feels like it gets refueled through a partly clogged garden hose. So the car's still waiting there while the fuel is still being done. So Everyone who doesn't opt for a new set of tyres is probably being a bit of a fool, because it's not going to extend the length of your pit stop. You're still just waiting on all of the fuel to go in, because you need gallons and then some more gallons to get to the end of this one, and they don't go in quickly.
Yeah, he's actually going to lose a full lap on the leaders after that, which is kind of wild.
Possible Hiller also has a penalty. Maybe he had the same kind of slowdown that Albert had, and didn't give it up quickly enough, because this is now past 1 minute. That is that's interesting. But Foweather and Coffard are going to cover him off.
Yeah, that's long even for a street stock. But I actually did notice on the way into the pit lane, he locked it up really, really hard. So I wonder if he got a too fast entering or something like that, which would be, I believe, 30 seconds onto the end of the stop.
There's also penalties for speeding in pit road. You're correct. Would add some. We'll maybe have an idea with Foweather and Coffard what their stop times look like. I know that for Carrizosa it was closer to 36 seconds.
It is possible that Carrizosa was planning on doing a two-stopper as well, if fuel really was that long.
I don't think so. It's close at the lead. They're going to have to pit shortly. We're 1 minute away from halfway. I wonder what strategy they go for, whether it's push it a little longer or stop at halfway. Next time around would be just after the halfway mark of the race. Tyler and Albert staying out. Foweather and Coffard rolling after 41 and 47 seconds of fuel, respectively. So I have no idea what's going on with the strategy, Devon, but that means it's going to be an interesting race.
Yeah, 6 seconds is a fair amount of fuel in any car, but in this car that ends up being about a gallon, I think. So either Coffard's done some bad math or Foweather's done some bad math, and we'll just have to see how it all shakes out. Looks like both of them are contending right now with Andrew Kosick, though, who's in 18th place.
If it was 6 seconds for a gallon, then you could confidently say that Carrizosa took 6 gallons, Foweather took 7 gallons, and Coffard took 8 gallons, and that would be their pit stop times. So I think those are maybe the rough numbers we can work with until we know better. As we've got William Corridor and David Palermo for pit road now. And maybe just in search of that new set of tyres, dictating their pit strategy. Oh, Jeff Tyler with his trademark pit entry that is questionable, but apparently it's the fast way onto pit road. Was he speeding on the way in? He's going to hope not. He slowed it way, way down. Interesting. So Tyler in, Albert staying out, but on those older tyres, braking on the way to pit in. Tyler might have come in a little hot.
Yeah, and I am interested to see if Alex picked up on that pit entry that Jeff just performed, because it wasn't something that I saw Alex doing in practice. So it'll be interesting to see if he tries out that line when he decides it's time for his stop. Also, wonder if Alex was able to save that little bit of extra fuel behind Jeff and is maybe going to have to take a little bit less.
Well, we'll see. Tyler on the lane in his box. Hurley, Sofianek on the lane, headed for their pit assignments. I'm just seeing David Palermo leave after 58 seconds. So big variations in the pit stop times. And Thorpe also on the lane. Philip Hayden in. So I think we're getting to about as far as the fuel goes. And I think Jeff Tyler might have got a speeding on pit road penalty, because he's out of his car and he's leaving the paddock. So I don't know if something popped up for Jeff Tyler or he made a dog's breakfast of that pit entry.
That's a real bummer for the race here, but I guess that's what happens sometimes. It's like that speeding penalty that Lewis Hamilton got last weekend. Not speeding penalty, entering a closed pit penalty.
So Alex Albert continues on for another lap. Max Lupfer from what is now going to be second place is in.
Yeah, and Alex just had a bit of a moment going into turn one there. He saw John Hurley at the apex of turn one, and I don't know if his tires are giving up or what, but he took it way deep into the outside and almost came to a stop before he turned right and finally made the corner. So kind of interested to see what his lap time ends up looking like after that move.
Yeah, that's the other thing. As the tires wear down further, is they become more difficult to brake and turn at the same time, or apply throttle and turn at the same time. We see a lot of these guys with the worn tires. Sure, the car's braking fine, and they go to turn into the corner, and then the tires just lock up because they refuse to do two things at once at that point. So Lupfer's, I think, almost done with his pit stop now, as we're seeing about 80% of the field have pitted. They're about at the end of how far the fuel goes for them. 40 seconds for Lupfer, and he gets rolling. So if the pit stop time is 45 seconds or longer for Albert, I think he's giving away the lead. But I think his pit crew are going to be good enough for him on this one. I'm not sure he's going to get undercut.
And he did take it nice and conservative on the entry to pit lane this time, so it looks like he's gotten in cleanly. No big brake check as he crossed the line.
No smoke leaving those tires, even though he's about to get rid of them for a new pair. Justin Hall in as well, so now there's only 3 or 4 drivers who have not pitted at all. 25 minutes to go in the race.
We must be getting some excellent fuel mileage. Now, if we jump on board with Simon Fullweather, he's dealing with some traffic. He's just put, looks like the 72 of Javier Pinzon behind him, and I think that's about the third one he's done so far this lap, as he comes up ahead on Alex Crawford, who actually had a pretty quick pit stop, had a slightly longer pit stop, but it looks like that undercut has actually paid off for him, and he's made up the position on Fullweather, maybe a few, depending on how this all shakes out.
Yeah, just one of the 2 drivers there on the older tires who hadn't pitted yet. That Fullweather on new tires was cutting his way through. Alex Albert's pit stop is done. He's back out on track on a new set of tires, and he is 4 seconds clear of Max Lupfer, who is in second place. So the tires will be a little bit warmer right now for Lupfer. He might be able to eke some time out of the lead, but it was near identical pit stops for the 2 drivers, and Albert's pretty comfortably back in the lead of the race once again.
I will note that Alex Albert, and Lupfer's actually, oh man, I thought he was going around through 6 there that time. But anyway, Alex Albert did take about a second less fuel than the rest of the field, around 39.5 seconds. But he does have the advantage of being the leader of the race, which means that his predictions about how long the race is going to go are probably a little bit more accurate than the average in the rest of the field. He did have an awful lot of draft assistance, though, during that first stint, and I wonder if that's maybe influenced his calculations a little bit. I'm curious to know how close he was being. Wow, and Lupfer has another big moment. I'm not sure if we're following along there, but he put it crazy sideways on the exit of turn 12 there.
Yeah, I think Lupfer sees this as his chance to try and get to the lead, but again, maybe just overdriving it. And that's the problem. That's the problem for him here. The lead stays just about the same. 23 minutes to go, and still a handful of battles out there. Carlos Corredo and Javier Pinzon have been swapping their position back and forth there, as Pinzon, I think, is losing a bit of time. There's also a battle for third.
Yeah, and I was just
Love and Justin Hall.
Yeah, I was just looking at Nicholas Love sizing up Justin Hall on the way down the front straightaway there. And if Justin
Big
Hall
wiggle from Hall, can't
Yeah.
put the power down out of turn 3, but then it's difficult to get to the inside and try to make a move into turn 4. So Hall and Love are having a good little battle here. They pitted 1 lap apart. They took just about the same amount of fuel.
Yeah, and I wouldn't rule out Foweather and Crawford getting together here shortly. Crawford, his tires are, I think, a few laps older than Foweather's will be. So Foweather ought to be starting to claw things back once the new comes off of Alex Crawford's tires.
That's right here. Love doesn't need to overdrive the car through these corners. He just needs to stay close for the run on the pit straight. Gets a good exit there, big wide sweeping entry. Maybe even going to try to go around the outside early for third place. This Love's trying something different to Justin Hall. So they're side by side. Hall on the low side, Love on the high side. Trying to get a little more speed up there, but then he's on the outside for turn 1 now. He is going just a teeny bit faster. Exactly side by side. Who's going to brake late? Who's going to brake too late? I think Love was on the brakes a little bit earlier, but there's still no problems for Justin Hall defending that one. And he has a wiggle out of 2. Love looks to the inside here and decides against it. He had a look and thought it wasn't quite worth it. It's a great little battle these guys are having. Meanwhile, just bear in mind, Lupfer took a couple tenths out of Albert at the front. And blocking a break there for Hall. Great battle these guys are having. I love it.
Yeah, lots of respect from these two, and both of them are championship contenders. I believe Justin Hall's currently in, I'll tell you in just a second, he's in 2nd place in the championship, and Love is in 5th place in the championship. So 2 guys raced a lot together, and I think a lot of respect as Love runs real wide. I think that's
Justin Hall.
My bad.
Justin runs deep on the way into the S's, and Nicholas Love goes and swoops up 3rd place. Don't normally see, we haven't seen many passes there in these cars, but a big enough mistake, and hey, just drive right around the other guy. So now it's Love into 3rd. Lupfer 4 tenths faster than Albert again.
We'll see. It seems to come in waves for him. He puts down a fast 1 or 2 in a row, and then he makes a little mistake and drops off the back of Albert. And Albert seems to be more rock solid, not making any real mistakes.
Yeah, and it's not like he's going to be able to close 3.5 seconds without Alex Albert realizing it's happening and being able to adjust or respond. So while he's chipping away at it, it's not happening in a hurry.
Looks like Love and Hall are coming up on some lap traffic here.
Yeah, David Palermo. Love tried to go around the outside of him, but kind of got blocked on the apex. So now he's looking down the inside at the S's. And I think he'll be a bit forceful getting his way through here if he can. He's not getting a deluxe treatment. And Justin Hall swoops around the outside to have the inside for the next apex and blocks him out. So they both work their way through. It was a bit of work, and it bought Nicholas Love, I think, just a couple car lengths there.
Yeah, though they might be made up here on the straightaway. We'll see what kind of run Justin was able to get.
Yeah, the draft isn't looking like it's worth 6 or 7 miles an hour. It's 2 or 3, maybe sometimes 4, so it keeps you close, gives you an opportunity to attack. But
yeah, they really designed the DRS on these cars well.
yeah, make this the Cup package.
I would be
Is
fully
that
in
how the
support of
meme
that.
goes? I don't know. Love goes deep into turn 4 though. Well wide. Hall closes a bit from that, but if he was right at the bumper, he would have gotten the position. He just wasn't close enough on that occasion. They go back and forth, and then someone overdrives it and loses a bit of time, and these guys are having a good battle.
Yeah, and we looked away from Fullweather and Cofford, and it actually looks like Fullweather's been able to overtake Cofford in that intervening time. So, like we predicted, that newness came off of Cofford's tires, and Fullweather was able to take advantage at some point. And there are two sort of surprise members of the top 10, Carlos Corridor and Shane Cameron. Oh no, sorry, just Carlos Corridor. Carlos Corridor is the last driver on track, nearly, to have not taken a pit stop yet. So he is currently listed in 8th place, but that's likely going to change once he finally goes and gets some fuel.
Yeah, how's he soft pedaling it around to have gone this deep into the race? I'm not sure, but seeing as how everyone else has needed, 6 or 7 gallons maybe.
And here he goes. He's taking the pit lane entry road this time, and he's taking it very slowly. I wonder if he's run out of fuel and is coasting into the pit lane at this point. A little lockup on the way in. But anyway, that's the last of our non-pitters.
Bad lap for Max Lutfer, and it's now 4.7 seconds for Alex Albert's lead. So Lutfer can, close it down a little bit, but then maybe take too much off his tires. Alex Albert has a good lap, and the gap is right back to where it was, and maybe even growing a little bit. So with the exit of Jeff Tyler from this race, it's been a bit of a free kick for Alex Albert, I think.
Yeah, so far. I'm not sure. Lufa is being competitive for sure, but I'm not sure that he's got that extra, 3/10 that Alex Albert seems to have right now. Checking back in on my favorite tiger spotted pattern, tiger striped pattern of Chris Nicely in the 691. He's just overtaken Javier Pinzon in the 72. He's been having a pretty solid race, but he is now the final guy a lap down, so we can probably shortly expect to see the leaders in his rearview mirror.
Yep, leaders doing laps in the 1 minute 37. Knisley's 1 minute 27 off the lead, so they're about 10 seconds away from him with 8 laps to go. And Knisley's been losing about 2 seconds a lap, so I would expect him at the rate he's going to drop off the lead lap before the checkered flag here.
I think this is really just some next level advertising from the Tiger Sanctuary, timing it out so that they get some exposure right before the end of the race. Really good stuff. And it does look like Fullweather and Cofford are actually starting to close up a bit. Now that Fullweather's kind of dipped down into the late stages of tire, Cofford might be able to have something for him.
And that can happen, someone's fast when there's a lot of grip, but struggles more as the grip drops away. So with how difficult these cars are sometimes to extract the speed from, we do have more field spread than I think we had with the the Mazda Miata races, maybe even the Pontiac Solstice races of the 3 cars that we're using this year's championship. So realistically, the best battles are sort of 3rd and 4th, still going back and forth between Love and Hall. And then for 5th, there is occasionally just a little bit of a charge out of Alex Coffard that might suggest he could attack Simon Foweather before the end. They're just over a second apart. It's 1.2, 1.3 seconds or so. That's one keep in mind, but isn't yet delivering the excitement. Nicholas Love in 3rd has some traffic, and he dives down the inside of the number 27 car.
That's Rob Craig.
That it is.
And it really is fun to see how much these guys are just leaping these things over curbs.
I mean, you can't unsettle this car by throwing it over curbs, because it's too heavy. It's got too much momentum. The suspension is too soft. It's almost entirely unfazed by jumping over most of those curbs, unlike a single seater or something else where you can get twitchy and spin out over curbs. This car it's too much mass, too much rotational inertia.
And you know what? I will actually note, we were mentioning the 5th, 6th place battle. John Hurley has just put in his 3rd consecutive lap in a row that is at least 0.8 faster than Alex Crawford and Simon Foweather. And Crawford actually had to take some evasive action into turn number 1 there, dodging, looks like the David Warden's number 4 car. And so that's put John Hurley right on the back bumper. And so after that early spin, he's going to have the opportunity to get back up into at least 5th place, or at least 6th place rather, trying to regain ground from that early spin. And he throws one
from him. No. I think he got in too deep there, threw it down the inside, and that is a bad move there from John Hurley. He has not stuck the landing on that one. John Hurley, what was that? He pitted 2 laps later than Foweather and Coffard, so I was about to say he'll have a little bit more grip on his tires now that they're wearing down for those other guys. And then where was the patience? Where was the awareness? There was some distraction there, maybe. He got in too deep, because that didn't look like an overtaking maneuver. That looked like
crash. Yeah, I think he just started wheel hopping it. He might have been a little aggressive on the downshift, and the rear end just came out from underneath him. So that's the second time for him, and unfortunately that kind of seals his fate. I don't know if he's going to be able to hold on or make a comeback from that unless he gets some real help from Foweather or Crawford.
10 minutes of the race time is ticking away. It needed to be perfect from here to the end if he was going to get a top 5 result, really. That's it's cost him a handful of time that it's kind of too late to work back.
Now, luckily for us, Nicholas Love and Justin Hall have closed back up again, and Justin Hall is now about a car length behind Nicholas Love. So we will have some racing going on side by side, hopefully, shortly.
Be 5 laps to go at the end of this lap for these guys.
And actually a little further down the field, car number 1 has just taken the inside line through turn number 1 backwards up the inside of Jay Sofianek. And it looks like he's got a nice run. We'll see if he's able to hold this line up the inside into the braking zone. Sofianek goes a little deeper, but with that preferred line, I think Matthew Thompson's going to be able to close the door, and sure enough, he does. Parks it on the apex of 2 and takes the exit. Nicely executed.
Do that one this weekend if you try. Bomb it down the inside of turn 1, park it on the apex of turn 2 there, and hey, they've got your favourite, and we know it's your favourite, right behind. Chris Knisley's taken the opportunity to close up on Sofianek as well, and Justin Hall's into 3rd, so it's all happening now.
Oh, jeez.
going on up there? They are door to door. Love and Hall. Inside here for Justin.
That's a tricky corner to take too wide.
Doing it. It's going to then be the inside for Nicholas Love because Justin Hall just couldn't get the move completed. Now he's going to try to switch back underneath. Quite going to work, but a bit of a slide in the middle of the corner hurts the speed for Love. He pushes out a little wide, but I think that's still legal. The corner workers aren't going to call him in on that one.
You know, and I think Justin Hall's suffering from a little bit of single monitor itis because there were a couple of times there where he could have really closed the door, pushed some pressure onto Nicholas Love there, and he wasn't able to do it. And I think it's just because he doesn't have that peripheral vision that a triple monitor setup or a VR setup would give him.
So just a handful of minutes left in this race. There's 2 battles for us to keep our eye on. Best one is third place, but there's also that one going on, Phoenix, Knisley and such around there. Justin Hall made a good go of it, trying to get third place. That lap just gone, but didn't work. Now he's back on the hunt.
Yeah, and Crawford's had some sort of issue last time by. He's lost about 5 seconds, which has put him back into the range where John Hurley might be able to take a look at him if Crawford continues to suffer from slow lap itis the way he has in the last one.
Absolutely roasted his tires. I don't really see it happening for Alex Crawford. He's back on his normal speed. Ooh, traffic for Love. He gets around. Was not quite that dramatic actually in practice, and Hall get through as well.
Gets a nice big lift there from Ernesto Carrizosa, helping him out and making sure that these 2 leaders get to continue their battle.
What happened for Max Lutfer where he's dropped back to being 11 seconds off the lead?
I don't think it's been any one thing. Alex Albert has just managed to keep up a pretty spectacular pace. Last time by, he ran a 38.2, and this time by, Max Lutfer's run a 39.2. So Alex Albert's just, taking care of those tires and been able to pull a gap. Speaking of fast laps, Nicholas Love's just put in 37.8, which is ridiculously fast for this phase of the race.
That's the kind of stuff he needs for the remaining laps, because Hall is still with him. And now not quite so close.
I mean, he's definitely taking some risks on corner entry, that's for sure. He's really carrying some speed.
Closest battle now then would be Sofianek and Knisley, because Knisley's
Hall's just had a big accident there on the Exodus 7. Looks like he's made contact with Javier Pinzon, who had a spin, and that's put him real hard into the wall. Simon Fullweather might be able to make up the spot depending on how straight Justin Hall's car is here. These things are pretty tank-like, but that was a hard hit.
Looks like the other car just sort of rolled back onto the line as Love and Hall were coming through, and Hall's gone and collected him. So yeah, you can see a bunch of damage on the car, but like you say, these cars are pretty tank-like. But I think Justin Hall's going for pit in, indeed.
Yeah, so that he's going to get that fast repair. He must be really unhappy with how that car's handling if he's taking a fast repair with 3 minutes to go in the race. Oh, and that's really going to be a dagger for him, because that was a great finish that he was shaping up to have there. And now it's going to be a ways down the order for him. long pit lane here, and of course he can't do 140 miles an hour down it like they used to.
And even here on iRacing, he gets to do a little bit quicker than the 35 mile an hour pit speed limit for ChampCar, and it still feels like a long pit lane. So he's back out. It's down in 7th place, though. I'm not sure Shane Cameron's going to be able to pressure him, though.
Yeah. John.
Matthew Thompson, Aaron Thorpe. Thompson's managed to grab that one because he was battling with Knisley and Safianek earlier. Now I've got Aaron Thorpe in the middle of that one. So see if there's a chance Aaron Thorpe can come back at this. This is surprising because Thompson was one of the earlier pitters. His tyres ought to be pretty well shredded now compared to all these guys behind him like Thorpe, Knisley and Safianek.
Well, and Thorpe's been having a pretty good race, actually. He's our biggest gainer of the race. He was up 6 positions, now up only 5, but he also took a pretty unconventional line, I'd say, through, or maybe too conventional, through turn number 1, because he got real high up on the banking, what little there is, and then turned it down to the apex, but looked like he lost a fair bit of time doing that compared to Matthew Thompson, who really stuck to the bottom of the track all the way through that turn number 1.
They've got your race leader behind them, trying to work out, was he shown the white flag? Is he on the last lap now? We're in the final minute of the race, so it's thoroughly possible, but also he's well advanced around the lap, and you think he'd still get to the line under 30 seconds from here, and we'd get one more lap. Let's keep an eye on the flag stand for Alex Albert this time around.
Yeah, we'll have to see, because he did take that second less of fuel than everyone else, so I'm not sure he's putting pedal to the metal here.
I think it's still 1 to go. I think it's, but we'll see. Time on the board. He crosses the yard of bricks, and that will start the final lap of the race. Yes, it will. So it was kind of close there. There was 8 or 10 seconds in it. But the pace from Alex Albert fast enough that we get one more lap. He starts the final lap of the race. So he's got 11 and a half seconds in hand over second place. So he's not pushing his way through this traffic on his final lap.
Yeah, and he and Nicely have raced together a fair bit too, so he might be giving Nicely and Safianek some room to race. Those two battling for 15th and 14th place, and Alex Albert's got the best seat in the house right now.
And as you were suggesting earlier, if he had any little questions on fuel, he can cruise around on this final lap and make sure he's all good in that regard. Don't think Safianek's really going to be close enough to Knisley this time around to put a challenge together. This is almost a little victory lap for Albert.
Not a victory lap for everyone, though. Justin Hall in 7th place and Shane Cameron, two good buddies, are now locked in battle. Cameron's right up on Justin Hall's bumper.
They'll have another lap to work that one out as final corner for Alex Albert. Wasn't a lights to flag victory. He didn't get that pole position. He had to battle Jeff Tyler earlier, but as Tyler drops out of the race, Alex Albert's brilliance continues, and he takes the win here for round 11. What about those other battles, Devin?
Well, Justin Hall has managed to get a little gap down the back straightaway here, but Shane Cameron has been catching up in the corner, so we'll see what it looks like after the exit of the S's here. Shane Cameron closing up. And now this really critical run onto the back, onto the banking. Oh,
he's lit them up. Shane Cameron, no traction on those older tyres, puts paid to his attempt to snatch a spot from Justin Hall in the final sector of the final lap. 12th place, Matthew Thompson. There's a 4-car train there.
Yeah, and those guys have been going back and forth a fair bit, including Chris Nicely
I
and
think those
Tiger
tyres
Circar.
have absolutely gone off now for Matthew Thompson. He's got Knisley trying to go around the outside, maybe push him into to attacking too hard.
They're
Knisley's
actually
tyres at
catching.
8th.
They're actually catching 10th place here, Camilo Carrizosa as well.
No, they're not. They've got lapped traffic in the way here, so that puts. Oh, they are indeed. Yeah, no, sorry. Carrizosa's going to maybe run out of fuel here.
Yeah, I think he's gone completely out, and he was our guy who stopped right at the start of the race. So I think one extra lap's put him over the edge. But let's get back to Chris Nicely, who's actually made contact with. That looks like Aaron Thorpe's car there. Oh no, Matthew Thompson's
No, he's
car.
mate. Chris Knisley loosening up Matthew Thompson on the banking. Aaron Thorpe, huge speed, is going to just beat him to the line. Sort of three-way photo finish there. Aaron Thorpe gets a good toe, takes a good line, steals a position away in the final corner there.
Oh, and that was some spicy stuff between Nicely and Thompson. No love lost between those two for sure.
There you go. So 4 or 5 drivers come together for a nice little battle at the end here. A replay of that one, trying to go around the outside twice, sort of loosens him up. Aaron Thorpe saw it happening, grabbed the right line in the drag race all the way to the end. Let's take a look at the results then. Your winner by 11 seconds is Alex Albert ahead of Max Lutfer, and only a little bit behind that, Nicholas Love and Simon Foweather in 4th, John Hurley 5th, Justin Hall back in 6th, Shane Cameron 7th, Jacob Hiller 8th, William Corredor in 9th place, and then Matthew Thompson at the head of a 5-car kind of battle there gets 10th, Aaron Thorpe 11th, Chris Knisley 12th, Jason Fieniak 13th, Camilo Carrizosa 14th. Don't know what happened for Alex Coffard, but I saw him.
That was that extra pit stop for the damage he took. He had to go and get that fast repair, right?
No, a time penalty's been applied to Alex Coffard after the finish. He might have had a penalty he didn't serve, or too many shenanigans after crossing the checkered flag before everyone had finished the race. Not sure, but he scored in 15th. Palermo in 16th, Carlos Corredor in 17th, Andrew Kosick 18th, Ernesto Carrizosa 19th, Javier Pinzon in 20th, and then David Warden 21st, 2 laps off the lead. Rob Craig 3 laps off the lead, finished in the pit lane, so he might have also been a driver almost running out of fuel there. Philip Hayden 23rd, Jeff Tyler retirement in 24th, Scott Grinnell also retiring 3 laps before that. Then Rachel Kosick and Mark Burt didn't take the start. Devon, I'm looking if there's anyone who might want to have a chat with us. So I'm going to go reverse order. We'll start at the end of the podium with the 3rd place finisher, Nicholas Love. After a long string driving the MX-5s in this championship, we're back with the street stock. And how has it been treating you today?
Oh, it's been good. It's a tough car to get with all that power, and you really got to just baby the throttle on a lot of these turns.
You got some teammates in the race. You've got some fans watching the broadcast. Did that help you get on the podium?
Yeah, it was good. Jacob, he qualified faster than me, which was rough being a teammate qualifying faster. But you had to let me know what was in front, which helped. And then yeah, definitely the girlfriend watching had to put some pressure on me.
Well, it didn't hinder you whatsoever. You get 3rd place on the podium. That's some points for you, and also you get a tick next to your name for participation. Fingers crossed you might win a ChampCar Endurance Series free entry for next season.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm looking at the schedule coming out right now, hoping to pick some races.
Adding to your bucket list for that one. What's caught your eye that people might see Love racing at in 2021?
I saw NCM on the schedule. I think we want to make it there. That's go to the Corvette Museum. That'd be awesome. And then probably Barber and maybe a long tow to Texas if Coda's on the schedule.
Well, best luck with that one. Hopefully we see you again on the iRacing series.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
There we go. Third place finisher, Nicholas Love. In second was Max Lupfer, and he is with Devin Peters.
Hey, Max, we got you?
Yep, you've got me loud and clear.
That's good to hear. So, being an Indiana native, how does it feel to be racing at home, right?
Feels pretty good. Indiana's where I went to college, so it's got a little special place in my heart. But didn't quite get the result we wanted. I think I had a little bit of a weird phantom damage on the car towards the end that kind of hurt my laps. I don't know why, but for some reason going down the straightaways, I couldn't get it out past like 5,800 RPM. So that was hurting me for like 2 seconds a lap there at the end.
That's a real bummer, but it looked like at different points in the race you might have had some pace. Were you thinking that you were going to be able to get up to the front?
I mean, it was good to still finish up in the front. It helps me at least replace some races in the championship, but wanted to finish ahead of Alex. Couldn't do that today, so a little bit bummed for that.
Well, we got a few more races to go in the season, so definitely got a few more chances there. Yeah, it looked like overall though a pretty relaxing race once you managed to clear the other guys in the top 5 there.
Yeah, the start was a little bit chaotic with with one car missing the grid. It kind of shuffled things around a little bit, and I kind of got stuck back in 5th on the start. But once I got past those 2 cars, kind of just sat in no man's land there till the first pit stop, and then Jeff having his drive-through penalty and leaving because of that kind of shuffled things around, gave me a little bit more hope that maybe I could catch Alex if he wasn't if he didn't have a drafting partner, but wasn't to be today.
Well, great job out there, man, and thanks for coming out and racing at the home track.
Thank you for having me.
So we have some words there from Max Lupfer finishing in second. We move up the podium one step further to find Alex Albert as a winner once again. When you were beaten to the pole position, how confident were you feeling about still being able to grab that win today, though?
Yeah, I thought that we had good pace. Jeff ended up having a little bit faster time than we were able to find in qualifying, but that's kind of been the story of our season. Just not really great qualifying efforts, a lot better in the race. So I knew Jeff would be quick. I just wanted to stay with him early and manage the tires. Last week in the practice race, I burnt the rears off. So just really concentrate on trying to be smooth, not having any lockups, and trying to manage that loud pedal. So yeah, I felt pretty good about it as we approached the pit stops. I felt like I was quite a bit faster than Jeff in the slow corners. So I felt like the race was really going to come to me. He had that mistake on pit road entry, and that kind of screwed up his race. And then after that, just came out and tried to manage the gap back to Max. And until he had his problems, it seemed like he was down a cylinder or something. And once we had the race in hand, I just tried to stay out of the way. I didn't want to mix it up with those midfielders. There's about 5 of them there right in front of me that were having a great battle. So I just sat back and enjoyed the show.
I know you love Indianapolis Motor Speedway a whole lot. Tell us what you're doing this weekend.
Yeah, so Indianapolis is always been one of my favorite tracks. Been a big fan ever since I was a little kid, and had the great fortune of seeing a few races there. And after this weekend, I hope to be able to say that I've had the great fortune of also racing there and placing well. So Me and the Huge Ass Boys will be headed out to meet up with the ChampCar Endurance Series at Indianapolis Motor Speedway this weekend for a double 10. We're really looking forward to it. Coming off of a pretty good run at the VIR 24 before we had mechanical issues. I feel like we can have a strong effort this weekend, so really looking forward to it.
Travel safe tomorrow and have a good weekend.
Thanks, guys, and thanks for putting this on. It's a great show, and I know all the drivers really appreciate it.
There we go. Today's winner, Alex Albert. And if you just saw the results sheet after the race, Devon, you'd say, "Oh, bit of a boring race." But I don't think anyone was a lock for those podium positions until quite a bit deeper into the race.
Yeah, and it looked like it was quieting down in the middle there, but then right at the end there was some real drama in a few different places between Hall getting caught up in that wreck and Crawford having to take a pit stop or taking a penalty there at the end. Not sure what that was about just yet. So it was. It turned out to be a pretty great race after all.
Yep, that was round 11 of the ChampCar iRacing series. We're back on the 30th of September, and we keep some of that Roval flair going on. It's the street stock once again at Auto Club Speedway out in California. So I think everything that the drivers learnt this weekend, or this round, I should say, they're going to be able to apply later on in the month. Same cars, similar flavor of circuit. Round 12 is from Auto Club Speedway. So we do hope you'll join us either on the grid or for the coverage of that one. All the information, forum.champcar.org. And from myself, David Haynes, our producer, Michael Derby, Devon Peters alongside me. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon on HJBC.